Struggling to make ends meet, we hear about the grim reality of families living on the breadline during the pandemic.
Sometimes it was a case of feeding the kids and seeing what's left.
If there's nothing, I'll just feed them, but I would go without.
You would go without food?
Yeah.
My hope is to wake up one day, I'm not worrying about how much I'm worrying. I don't think there's any child that needs to go through living below the poverty line.
And Lorraine Kelly tells us how money raised by the STV Children's Appeal will help families like these. Good evening. It's a grim statistic. A quarter of Scottish children are living in poverty. And with COVID wreaking havoc on the economy, charities say many more parents are going to be struggling to put food on the table in the months to come. Emma Cameron has spoken to families who've turned to lifeline services during lockdown.
Most of us take it for granted that we can feed and clothe our children, keep them entertained and carefree. But many families across Scotland are struggling to make ends meet, with 1 in 4 children here living in poverty. Melanie and her partner Dean have 4 children each. They fell on hard times this year when lockdown left Dean unable to work or access furlough.
Sometimes it was a case of feeding the kids and seeing what's left. It sounds awful to look at it like that, but sometimes it was a case of stealing a few chips before it went onto a plate and just hoping there was bread left at supper time that you might get a bit of toast.
Trying to feed 8 different kids every day, 3 meals a day, I can't even begin to imagine how hard that must have been.
I don't think anyone wants to admit that they can't feed their family. A lot of the time we had to rely on food banks, which were absolutely fantastic, and without it I really don't know what sort of situation. I'm sure we would have managed, we would have found a way, but I'm not entirely sure what that would have looked like. Often there was the, can I go to the shop for a sweetie? He said, well, no. Why not? And said, well, just there is no money to go to the shop for a sweetie.
How did that make you feel?
Really bad, really bad.
With 8 children at home, it wasn't just the food bill Melanie had to worry about.
Everything just all mounts up, even just the number of meals that were getting cooked in a day. We've got a smart meter and I kept looking at it sometimes and thinking, just please stop going up.
Did you get help with some of your bills?
We did get, it was Aberlour that pointed us in the direction. It was an energy payment and just to put towards some of the costs. Again, it's not massive amounts, but every little makes a huge difference.
Charities like Aberlour provide essential support to families like Melanie's.
When we were starting to struggle, our worker had actually said, is everything okay? And at first I was just saying, no, we're fine, we're fine, we're fine. And then when things started to get really bad, I did actually finally say to her, what is it you can offer? Because, we are getting to a point here where my partner are almost going without food. Not quite, but, we're sort of eating the leftovers. And at that point, she says, stop being silly. This is here, there's absolutely no shame. And, at that point, I actually had some other neighbours sort of saying, why did you not say? Because we could have told you as well. Because we've been getting that, and it made me feel a bit better as well to know there was other families in the same position.
Olivia first came to Scotland as an asylum seeker from Zambia 15 years ago. Not able to work and with no money coming in, things got even harder for Olivia when she fell pregnant with her son.
I had Reese in 2016 and then found myself homeless.
4-year-old Reese has autism and requires a lot of extra support.
Is that no?
You must have had some nights where you couldn't sleep, worrying about how to provide for your son.
We started on £25 a week, which was a torture actually. It was like a suicide plan for us. I kept on telling Reese, I'll change this for you, I'll change this for you. But inside I was hating, and knowing that the father wasn't there, I didn't want to let him down.
Olivia has now been granted temporary leave to remain, meaning that for now she can live and work in Scotland. She's also studying for a degree at Glasgow University.
Studying with poverty, it can make your grades go lower. You won't concentrate. In the 3rd year, I don't know how I've made it, but I think it's just that mind keeps on telling me, keep going forward. This is the only thing that's going to change your situation. When I was not in uni, I was at work, and I found myself worse off because the 16 hours I was working made me even lose quite a lot of income. and I incurred like about £1,000 in debt with the housing. So that's something I didn't expect. I was like, I'm trying to improve my situation. I've taken up this work. Why is everything not improving?
Olivia is now finally living in permanent accommodation after moving 10 times since arriving in Scotland.
So I started from there with nothing. This second year in that accommodation, my kitchen still has got an open floor. There's no mat. I've only covered my son's room. There was no wardrobes bought in. So all this was through charity donations. I don't have quite a lot of brand new things in my accommodation just now. This is on an affordable budget when it comes to feeding Reese. Sometimes I just say I'm so grateful that my son loves water. One of my babysitters brought me a small fridge for him, so I put his juice and yogurt in that fridge so he can open and takes what he wants. So when those juice or yogurt is not there, I'll fill the fridge with water. I always see him look at the fridge before he makes that option to say, I'm going to go for water because there's nothing here. And that, actually watching that hits me because I can see him going through that.
And how are things for you now? Do you have hopes for the future for you and for Reese?
I want to have a house with a garden and watch him play. And I've got everything, like the healthy food that I need to feed him. My hope is to wake up one day, I'm not worrying about how much I'm worrying, because sometimes I even feel like one day I'm just going to drop because my energy levels have just gone down. And I'm hoping that doesn't happen before Reese grows up.
Kelly and Tom care for 3 children. Kelly's eldest, Nicole, has severe learning disabilities and needs round-the-clock care.
Nicole needs to be supported. You can't leave her to do anything unsupervised. For us, it's just living Groundhog Day every day. And tiredness is a big factor. And having COVID in March, I would say, is one of the hardest things to get through, because we were the ones that had COVID and she was the one that didn't. And we kept her isolated for 3 weeks.
Tom was put on furlough and his pay was cut to 80% when the country locked down in March. The family were helped by the charity Enable when things got really tough.
Are you having fun? I can feed the kids first, and if there's nothing, I'll just feed them, but I would go without.
You would go without food?
Yeah.
Because you couldn't afford to eat?
There wasn't enough food, and struggled with money a bit because my husband wasn't working. It was difficult.
And how did that make you feel? That must have made you feel
really anxious.
Really anxious.
It's upsetting time.
You've got to make sure the kids are fine. I mean,
Kids
you have to
first.
take a back seat when it comes to food. We weren't at a stage where I think we were at starvation point. We're never in that position. But you're having to watch what you were using, and you had to make sure you used everything. If anybody was going to go without food, it would be us. So we really had to pull in the belt as much as possible. But when Nicole went to the hub, and then we started to receive these food parcels out of nowhere, we didn't apply for food parcels, we didn't apply for any kind of help, it just appeared.
But you needed it.
And we needed
Yeah.
it. And it came in really, really handy.
And we felt bad.
Yeah,
Even
we really
receiving
did
them.
feel bad.
We felt that other people...
Because we thought there was more people more deserving than us.
The pressure on families who have parents or children with additional support needs cannot be underestimated.
Carers are not valued. We don't feel valued in society. At times we feel we're a burden in society because we have to ask for support and help so that we can look after the person that's most in need of that support. We're just forgotten about. We don't matter. And because we don't matter, it makes it harder.
Every parent wants the best for their children, not just for today, but for the future too. They don't want to rely on charity, but sadly, support like this is a lifeline for so many families across Scotland who say they feel forgotten about.
We were in a really bad situation. Sort of supporting other charities can mean that people that were in my situation don't have to be. They can go to sleep knowing that they fed their kids.
We all want to live a decent life, you know, for every human being. This is a society that wants everyone to live a decent life. But I think part of the population is ignored. It's like you don't exist. It's like you're not worth it. I don't think there's any child that needs to go through any living below the poverty line.
In a modern society that we live in, why are we allowing that? Why are people having to go to food banks? We shouldn't be living like that.
Well, joining us now from Aberdeen is Fiona Young, Community Development Worker with Killydrone Community Flat. And here in the studio are Professor John McKendrick, Co-Director of Glasgow Caledonian University's Scottish Poverty and Inequality Research Unit, and Michaela Collins, Chief Executive of the charity Peak. Thank you all very much indeed for joining us this evening. We're hearing there in Emma's report from families who were just coping perhaps before COVID, but that just tipped them over the edge there. Fiona, up where you are, what's the effect of the pandemic been on families, vulnerable families?
Hello, yeah. The stories we heard there are absolutely awful, but really quite horribly familiar. You'll have a family where perhaps one partner's been in work, or perhaps, you know, if a single-parent family, they've been working. Suddenly, you're in a situation where you have children at home all day, which means there has to be an extra meal on the table at lunchtime, which means snacks are necessary, which means extra energy bills. You know, you're going to increase in your energy bills having to prepare food for entertainment purposes, televisions, all these things that go with having kids at home. They've not been able to go out and play as much as they would, so they are essentially stuck in the household. So we've had people coming to us for support around energy bills, around topping up mobile phone bills, which is often the only internet access that's available in the house. Mm-hmm. We've had parents really struggling with children at home, particularly with additional support needs. And obviously, across the city and across the country, across the nation, the demand on food banks has been exponential over this period.
Michaela, your charity, Peak, works with children and families and supporting them. Is that a picture that you recognise of what Fiona just described there? If you're on a tight budget, this, you know, things add up.
Absolutely, that's what we've been seeing, and the increase of families asking for food. Through the lockdown period, we delivered the equivalent of 290,000 healthy hot-cooked meals to families across the city, fuel support, wellbeing packages to families who were really needing that support at the time.
And your experience, Michaela, growing up in poverty, does that really inform what you do now? You must, you know, people's stories must very much resonate with you.
Absolutely. You know, I knew from my first-hand experience what families needed at that time, and that's why we were able to turn our charity around within the space of 4 days, relocate to new premises, set up a kitchen and start making meals and getting the right support to the families in the right way.
John, this is already a big problem, but when furlough ends in a few weeks' time, I mean, the fear is that there's going to be many more job losses. I mean, things could get much worse.
Things will get much worse. I mean, before COVID, the projections were that poverty was going to increase anyway. Now, you factor in the furlough changes, the job losses already. Without a doubt, poverty will increase, but also the intensity of poverty for those that experience it will get worse too.
And Fiona, you know, one of the statistics in that package was that 65% of these kids have one parent in a job, and if that parent loses a job, I mean, that's going to be devastating.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the poverty statistics, I do think people find shocking that 65% of kids in poverty have a parent in work. But because so many part-time jobs now are, it's not consistent. You're not working every Tuesday and every Thursday. It could be you get set this hours one week, different hours the next week. Now, if you're claiming universal credit to top this up, this means that your income can differ hugely on a month-by-month basis. So planning for any emergencies, planning for any bills coming in can be almost impossible.
John, child poverty has risen in nearly every Scottish local authority since 2014-2015. That's according to research that came out this week by the End Child Poverty Coalition. Whatever it is we are trying to do as a society, it's not working, is it?
It's not working well enough. I mean, we are doing a lot. We have an ambition to eradicate child poverty by 2030. The Scottish Government is about to introduce the Scottish Child Payment, which is estimated would have lifted 30,000 families out of poverty, but for COVID factoring in. So we have to do more. And we're doing quite a lot. We have got good ambitions. We have the right will to make a difference. Local areas have local plans to tackle child poverty. But the reality is, if we're really serious about eradicating it, we have to do much, much more.
What needs to be done? What would you like to see, Michaela?
There's absolutely lots that needs to be done, and it's mostly for our more vulnerable society, the kids that need help now, rather than thinking a year or 2 years or 10 years down the line. We need to be bold, we need to be more ambitious, and we need to start now.
Fiona, we need to be more bold, we need to be more ambitious. What would you like to see?
It's a really, really difficult question because there's so many factors that are causing child poverty, but certain aspects, there need to be, I think, a review of the huge annual increase in energy bills is really, really causing people trouble. Also, once you're in poverty, things tend to cost more. You can't actually get things like a mobile phone contract because you don't have a credit history, so you're stuck on pay-as-you-go, which can be expensive. It's really, really difficult, and we need to have some kind of ring-fenced budget so that families do not slip into food poverty. No one should be in a situation where food is an unaffordable luxury, nor should gas or electric. So if payments are being taken off for rent arrears, council tax, there needs to be some kind of protection for what is essentially a basic human right.
So how do we go about breaking the cycle then? Because that seems to be very important, John.
Probably three things that have to happen, and one is to throw the question back at you. There are things that you and I and everybody can do. I mean, we've all got responsibility to do within our own realms what we can do to tackle poverty. Well, if it was you, Rona, it would be thinking about how we present poverty to others. I'm not personally speaking at yourself, but how poverty is presented sometimes makes it seem as if there is an undeserving, and these are people who do not deserve. These are people that somehow are feckless and are draining the system. Absolute nonsense. That's not what the evidence shows. So there's responsibility amongst us all, journalists and as well as the professions, to do what they have to do. I think we have to wait for that big change you were talking about. If we're serious about it, some really big decisions have to be made about shifting how society's resources are distributed. Just now it's incredibly unequal. But I think there are things we can do in the here and now. There are things that within our own professions, be it the teaching practice, thinking about tackling the cost of the school day, be it within housing, ensuring that we have adequate social housing, which is a big player in Scotland, which means that we have lower rates of poverty in Scotland than other parts of the UK. So I think we have to make more of the resources that are at our disposal. And I think, as Fiona's just pointing out, some of the decisions we have to make, we have to poverty-proof them. We have to have right at the centre of our decision-making the very most vulnerable, and what we have to do to protect them at all costs. Other things are secondary.
Would you agree with what John's saying there, and also about the changing the perception?
Absolutely, totally is a perception. No parent wants their children to grow up in poverty. No parent wants their child to become an addict, or all these statistics and the myths that surround poverty. Everybody wants the best for their children, and that for us is what Peak does and what we can support as a society. It's taking away the effects of poverty for kids at a very early age, and so that when they grow up, they're more confident, more able to go and be the best that they can be in the world.
And Fiona, in Emma's report, we did hear one of the mums saying she didn't know where to go for help. I mean, is that a problem? Should it be more widely known where people can go?
Yes, it should. I mean, we're a small charity based in the regeneration area, and we worry that the people that come to us for support is just the tip of the iceberg, that there's all these people below the waterline that just have no idea where to turn, or else are too ashamed. There's a stigma attached to going for help. In Aberdeen City, around 67% of people pre-COVID going to food banks were single men. And we'd wondered, where have all the women gone? And we're worried that they're frightened to be seen to seeking support because they think they've somehow failed as a parent, which is absolutely completely the opposite to what will be going on. So, yeah, we do worry that there are people not accessing charities that don't know where to turn because they're not, there's not enough promotion.
Yeah, very briefly, Michaela, is that what you found as well?
Absolutely. The stigma of poverty is definitely there, and for us it's about trying to reach as many kids and as families as possible, and using play and creative arts to do that, with food being core.
OK, we will have to leave it there, but Fiona Young up in Aberdeen, John McKendrick and Michaela Collins, thank you all very much indeed for joining us this evening. Well, we've been talking about how charities are really going to need extra funds this year, and that's exactly the purpose of the STV Children's Appeal, which returns tomorrow night with its 10th show. The fundraiser will highlight the vital work that organisations do supporting local communities, and hopefully a huge amount of money will be raised for those most in need. Here's a taste of tomorrow night's programme.
Here in Scotland, there's a hero in every community.
I ran up and down the garden 200 times. Took me 7 days. I wanted to raise money all over Scotland, no matter where. I don't care who, just wanted to raise money all over Scotland.
Frank, get the door! We've only got a couple of hours today to get meals made and get them out to our community, Janie, so we're boogieing quick today.
I was a Glasgow child who had struggled with poverty, and I remember going hungry. I remember wondering if I could go to an auntie's house and get something to eat. So it was important to me because if no me, if no you, then who?
And the host is Lorraine Kelly. Lorraine Kelly, MBE, to give you your full title. Thanks for joining us this evening. This has been such a difficult year, hasn't it? Especially for those kids and families living on the breadline. They need support more than ever, don't they?
Absolutely. I mean, this is our 10th year, and we never thought it would be like this. And there's more need of what the appeal does, more need than ever there was before. And that's why I know, and every year I always say this, but every year it's true, people in Scotland are just absolutely remarkable, and they always dig really deep and give as much as they possibly can. And right now, you know, we're all struggling from one degree to another, but for people who, through no fault of their own, you know, their children are going hungry and their children need help and also need to have their spirits raised as well, because that's so important too. But I know that everyone in Scotland will be really generous.
And these charities that provide such invaluable support, I mean, their resources are going to be so called upon, aren't they?
Absolutely, and this is where we really need everybody to help if they possibly can. And of course, everybody always responds incredibly well. It is quite remarkable, you know, like I say, been doing this for 10 years, and every single year we say, wow, we can't believe how generous people have been. But yeah, right now, everybody's struggling. It's tough, but it's really, really tough for children. And, you know, whatever we can do to make their lives a little bit better, to make them smile, to keep them safe, to give them something to eat, you know, it's as basic as that. That really is absolutely vital.
It's going to look quite different tomorrow night, though, isn't it? Because you've had to film it under COVID conditions.
We have. It's still going to be really good fun. We've got celebrity catchphrase, which I think is going to be so funny and uplifting. It's going to be a very interesting version of that. You're going to see the First Minister as you never have seen her before. Ooh. And also Biffy Clyro are going to be performing. And most important of all, we're going to see all their amazing fundraisers and all the wonderful things that they've been doing, even with COVID. It's amazing, the wonderful lengths and the different ways that people find to raise money. It's really, really inspiring. So it'll be a great show. It'll be uplifting, and it will make a real difference. And every penny makes a difference. Yeah,
and as you say, there are going to be some really uplifting and heartwarming stories.
Absolutely. The stories that come out of this, they will make you cry, but sometimes it's happy tears because you see the difference that the appeal has made to the lives of children who really are struggling and sometimes never get a chance to play or to have fun or to enjoy themselves. And to see that is really remarkable. So yeah, it really is a really inspiring evening.
Great stuff. Well, good luck tomorrow night. I hope you raise lots and lots of money. Thanks very much indeed for joining us, Lorraine. And the appeal will be on tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. on STV, and you can see full details on how to donate on the STV Children's Appeal website. And that's all from Scotland Tonight. Thanks for watching. John Mackay will be here on Monday. Until then, good night.